India's new privacy rules demand compliance from everyone excepting the state. Digital life has to be governed by keeping individual privacy within reach. Author R. Suryamurthy. Continued from Part 1. Nowhere is the contradiction clearer than in the treatment of children's data. On paper, India's protections are among the strongest in the world. Targeted advertising to minors is banned. Profiling is limited. Verifiable parental consent is mandatory. These are tough standards, stronger than COPPA in the US and comparable to the GDPR's strictest interpretations. But the rules stop short of applying these protections to the government itself. School databases, scholarship portals, and Aadhaar-linked welfare systems may be fully exempted. This means India has created a regime where a private tutoring app must jump through multiple hoops to protect a child's data, but a government department holding far more sensitive information may choose not to. No liberal democracy grants the state such sweeping freedom over children's personal data. India has normalized it. Even India's most inventive idea, consent managers, suffers from the same flaw. In theory, these managers could revolutionize user agency, a single interface where citizens can track, manage and revoke consent across apps and services. But this only matters if consent is the foundation of the entire system. If the government can exempt itself from consent obligations, then a citizen may be able to revoke permissions from an e-commerce platform, but not from a welfare database holding biometric records. That is not meaningful empowerment. It is user control within an artificially bounded sandbox, a power that evaporates the moment the request goes upward instead of sideways. The world is already trying to decode what India is signaling. Europe will hesitate before granting adequacy, because adequacy requires confidence that a partner nation restrains its own government access. The US will remain cautious because cloud and AI investments rely on predictable cross-border data rules, not discretionary exceptions. China may see India's model as tacit endorsement of sovereign data supremacy, minus the transparency with which Beijing asserts it. India positions itself as a fourth model, but the question is whether this model has institutional depth or merely political convenience. And so the debate boils down to a single, unavoidable question. Will the Indian government ever hold itself to the same standards it imposes on the private sector? The test is not theoretical. Will ministries report data breaches affecting millions of citizens? Will consent withdrawals actually apply to police or welfare databases? Will DPBI orders be published in full for public scrutiny? Will exemptions shrink over time, or will they expand until they swallow the rule? Every major privacy regime in the world lives or dies on this basic principle, that the law binds the state, not just the citizen. If India wants to be seen as a serious digital democracy, it cannot build its privacy system on executive shortcuts. It cannot trumpet citizen rights, while undermining them with silent notifications. It cannot demand trust from global companies, while keeping the rules of international data flows open-ended. And it cannot promise individuals control over their data, while reserving for itself the right to bypass the architecture of control. A privacy law that restrains companies but spares the state is not a privacy law. It is administrative housekeeping masquerading as rights protection. India can still fix this by narrowing exemptions, strengthening oversight, guaranteeing regulatory independence and acknowledging that the state, in a data-rich era, is the single most powerful actor in the ecosystem. But unless it confronts this foundational contradiction, the country will remain trapped between aspiration and reality, a democracy that celebrates digital rights in theory, while governing digital life in a way that keeps genuine privacy perpetually out of reach.